Welcome, Climate Viewers. This is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News at ClimateViewer.com with facts minus fear porn. And some of you may have caught my last video about my motherboard problems and my corrupted BIOS. Well, I figured it would be a good time to talk about state level and government level hacking of motherboards. This is something I have a long history with. I've been an IT professional most of my life. I've been on computers since I was 12. I'm 42. And most people, in fact, I know very, very few people know about this topic at all. So what I'm going to do is break down as quickly as possible for you the deepest, darkest secret in hacking, in the hacking world, and how it could be affecting you. And I do believe it affected me. So we're going to talk about rootkits, and especially rootkits on your motherboard, not viruses or malware or Trojans on your hard drive, but how they can hack your motherboard. Now, for those who didn't see it, I got a nice little picture of it up here. Let me bring that up real quick. This is the picture of the day. Main BIOS is corrupted. System will recovery from backup BIOS. Not recovery. Somebody pointed that out in the last video. That might be bad translation, or it may be a sign of some poor coding on the part of a hacker. But regardless, please don't turn off your computer or reset your system. It might take a few minutes updating BIOS. So the BIOS is the brains of the motherboard. It is the software that is hard written to a chip on the motherboard that controls all of the parts of the motherboard: video card, RAM, CPU, everything. Infecting a BIOS is bad, and we're going to get into what a rootkit is first, because most people have probably never even heard the term rootkit. So a rootkit is basically software that runs before Windows even boots up, or Linux or Macintosh, before your virus scanner ever has a chance to stop it. So it's actually running underneath your virus scanner. Most virus scanners, malware scanners, they have no way of detecting this sort of thing. You usually have to employ a specific rootkit detection tool. It'll, restart your computer and then try to detect it as the computer's booting up. And rootkits, are designed to, provide privileged access to a computer while actively hiding its presence. The term rootkit is a connection between the two words root and kit. Originally, a rootkit was a collection of tools that enabled administrator-level access to a computer network. Root refers to admin account on Unix or Linux, and kit refers to software components that implement the tool. Today, rootkits are generally associated with malware, such as Trojans, worms, viruses that conceal their existence and actions from the users and system processors. What can a rootkit do? A rootkit allows someone to maintain command and control over a computer without the computer user owner knowing about it. Once a rootkit has been installed, the controller of the rootkit has the ability to remotely execute files and change system configurations on the host machine. A rootkit on an infected computer can also log files and spy on the legitimate computer owner's usage. So it can steal your passwords, it can monitor all your internet activity, every single keystroke you make, everything you speak into, or this webcam that I'm looking into. It can, make all that function. In fact, I've even seen rootkits that can access the CD drive without even turning on the CD drive light. So pretty crazy stuff. Rootkit detection, we'll skip all that. Rootkit protection, all these links will be available later. But some well-known rootkit examples. Lane and Davis, Stephen Drake wrote the earliest known rootkit in the 1990s. NT rootkit was one of the first malicious rootkits that targeted Windows operating system. Hacker Defender, early Trojan, altered, augmented the OS at a very low level of function calls. Machiavelli, the first rootkit targeting the Macintosh OS X, appeared in 2009. This rootkit creates a hidden system calls and kernel threads. Greek wiretapping in 2004-5. Intruders installed a rootkit that targeted the Ericsson AXE PBX. It's a cell phone. Zeus. Now, boy, this was a really big rootkit, spread all over the world, and it created a botnet that allowed people to do things like distributed denial of services attacks, where they would use your computer to shut down websites by overloading them. Millions of PCs were infected with this. First identified in July 2007 is a Trojan horse that steals banking information by a man in the browser, keystroke logging and form grabbing. It was used for much more than just that. Stuxnet, the first known rootkit for industrial control systems. Stuxnet was written by the NSA and the Mossad in Israel and was used to destroy the Bashir nuclear power plant by causing the the servos in the spinning reactors to spin too quickly, so they destroyed themselves. So literally, it was a rootkit that destroyed hardware. And Flame, a computer malware discovered in 2012 that attacks computers running Windows OS. It can record audio, screenshots, keyboard activity, and network activity. So rootkits, bad. Rootkits are very bad because they start before your operating system starts, and your virus scanner usually starts after your operating system starts. So the chances of your virus scanner protecting you from a rootkit once installed are slim to none. That's why rootkits are the top of the line in infecting a PC and destroying it, or using it for nefarious purposes. People will literally wrench your PC out. So if you know that your computer's running really slowly and you don't know why, and you've done your virus scans and you can't find anything, get a good rootkit scanner. That's probably where it's coming from. But it gets worse. So let's go to that. So what is the master boot record? This is basically where most rootkits are installed. The master boot record works like this. The BIOS first looks for a target device to boot from that contains a master boot record. Once found, the master boot record's boot code uses volume boot code of the specific partition to identify where the system partition is. That particular partition's boot sector is then used to start the operating system. So the master boot record is like on a sector of the hard drive where there isn't any files. It contains the boot information for the computer. That's where a rootkit is installed. Okay? Old school rootkits, not the ones we're about to talk about. The reason I bring this up, in 2011, there was a company named HB Gary. And HB Gary's nemesis is a 16-year-old schoolgirl. And this was a schoolgirl from the hacker group Anonymous who hacked into HB Gary, a Department of Defense contractor, as a result of one of the guys, this CEO, is talking about how he was going to take Anonymous out, so he kind of put his foot in his mouth, and B, because of what HB Gary and company were doing to WikiLeaks. So what were they doing to WikiLeaks? Well, here's the original file. It's over on my script. U.S. Defense Contractors versus WikiLeaks Response version 6. And you can see here, the WikiLeaks threat, an overview by Palantir Technologies, HB Gary Federal, and Barrico Technologies. And they talk a little bit about WikiLeaks was launched in 2006 by self-described Chinese dissidents and interested parties from 5 continents. Within a year of its launch, WikiLeaks claimed to possess over 1.2 million documents from 13 countries. As of 2010, the WikiLeaks team consisted of 5 full-time employees and about 800 volunteers. The employees and volunteers are spread across the world, with their identities largely unknown. So what happened was Bradley Manning, aka Chelsea Manning, had released the big bulk of State Department emails to WikiLeaks, and the Department of Defense immediately went on the attack to try to destroy the credibility of WikiLeaks and anybody talking about it. That includes, and you can see right here, Julian Assange placed on Interpol red notice list of wanted persons for sex crimes. That's not a coincidence. But regardless, what you see in this little chart right here is their target list. And among their target list, down here at the bottom, are American citizens, one of which was Glenn Greenwald. If you don't know who Glenn Greenwald is, he used to write for The Guardian. He now has his own website called The Intercept. And this is the U.S. military, defense contractors, using viruses, malware, rootkits, and any kind of software they can use to gain access to a U.S. journalist's computer and using fake sock puppet accounts on social media to discredit him, to harm him, to track him, major violations of constitutional right. But it's the military, so hey. So what did HB Gary do? They came up with something called 12 monkeys. Now, it reads like this. By 2009, the existing generic HB Gary rootkit package was a bit long in the tooth. Hoagland, one of the guy who shot his mouth off, the rootkit expert, apparently had much bigger plans for the next-gen product called 12 Monkeys. The 12 Monkeys rootkit was a contract paid out by General Dynamics. As one of HB Gary email noted, the development could interfere with Task B, but if we succeed, we stand to make a great deal of profit off of this. On April 14, 2009, Hoagland outlined his plans for a new super rootkit for Windows XP, which was unique in that the rootkit is not associated with any identifiable or enumerable object. This rootkit has no file, name data structure, device driver, process, thread, or module associated with it. An invisible rootkit, a super rootkit. How could Hoagland make such a claim? Security tools generally work by scanning a computer for a particular object's pieces of data that the operating system uses to keep track of processes, threads, and network connections, and so on. 12 Monkeys simply had nothing to find. Quote, since no object is associated with the objectless rootkit, detection will be very difficult for a security scanner. He wrote, in addition, the rootkit would encrypt itself to cloak itself further and hop around in the computer's memory to make it even harder to find. As for getting the data off the target machine and back to the rootkit's buyer, Hoagland had a clever idea. He disguised the outgoing traffic by sending it only when other outbound web traffic was being sent. Whenever a user sat down at a compromised machine and started surfing the web, their machine would slip in some extra outgoing data disguised as ad clicks that would contain a log of all their keystrokes. While the basic rootkit went for $60,000, H.B. Gary hoped to sell 12 monkeys for much more, around $240,000. This is your Department of Defense contractors, not the actual military, contractors for it, H.B. Gary Federal. So they wrote this rootkit, and this was back in 2009. We're talking 9 years ago. And Windows XP. So you can only imagine what I'm about to show you. This gets weirder. So 12 monkeys, you can actually go to the HB Gary email section of WikiLeaks and put in 12 monkeys, and you can read 62 results, all of the HB Gary juicy fruit cost, 12 monkeys, all this. They got time card updates on them working on this rootkit and all this stuff. And nobody even talks about the HB Gary emails. I read every single one of them. In fact, I had them in an Outlook PST file so that I could search through them long before WikiLeaks ever published them all. But regardless, when I saw the word super rootkit, it kind of made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. So this particular email is dated 2009, August 15th. The $100,000 Skunk Works project is not in Project B. Project B was around $480,000, and the proxy is $200,000 of IRAD, and as is $100,000 for Skunk Works. Just got an update. Skip this. The agenda will be fourfold. Demo 12 monkeys for final handoff. So to give the 12 monkeys rootkit to, I guess, General Dynamics. Review keyboard emulation on task B and discuss next steps to fill out the 80K, 20K of the 100K that has already been consumed. Also, I will look into longer term. As I recall, there is still an additional 100K on the table, bringing us to up to $380,000. Based on my last discussion with them, they weren't planning on dipping into this until quarter one, though. Get an update on Project Athena, and then Skunk Works, a good couple hours, sit down with Sean and Ben. If you don't know what Skunk Works is, look it up. So this is old stuff that I've talked about. Just a little background to give you guys an idea of how the U.S. military and its defense contractors use rootkits to infect people's PCs. And then, basically everything you type, everything you say, it's all recorded and sent out. Do another search on HB Gary emails for BIOS rootkit, and you only get 10 results. Interestingly enough, looking for BIOS bytes, is the title of one of these emails. And I found this one particularly interesting. It's let me go back up here to the top. You'll see right here. This is from the Hacking Team archive. New rootkit, attack hard to kill. Dated 2009-03-31. So this is even before the 12 monkeys thing. You scroll to the bottom, and what do you see? Those of core security have written a Python program to install a rootkit in the BIOS. Not bad. So we're talking 2009 right here, 30 March 2009. And this is a hacking team in Italy. And they had written a Python, which is a Google code, program to install a rootkit in the BIOS. The BIOS, again, is on your motherboard. Okay? So this is bad news bears. Then in 2013, this was posted on the register, and they couldn't even, they wouldn't believe it. Indestructible, badass rootkit, bad BIOS. Is this the tech world's Loch Ness Monster? Vote now. Amazing claims of a MRSA-like super malware scrutinized. Okay? The claims. Once installed and hidden away in the PC's BIOS storage area, the rootkit is supposedly capable of communicating between compromised machines by transmitting data encoded in ultrasonic sound emitted from the device's loudspeakers. Incredibly, nearby infected PCs can, it's alleged, pick up the signals from their microphones and decode information. What? This is said to allow the malware to communicate between systems even if there is no other way to exchange information, such as over Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or an Ethernet connection. So it literally is a BIOS rootkit that uses your speakers, and if there's a microphone on any other device in your house, that microphone can pick up this signal and then transmit back and forth between them. Freaky. Rui reckons bad BIOS, which infiltrated his lab's computers, can infect PCs regardless of whether they are running Mac OS X, Windows, Linux, or any flavor of BSD or OpenBSD. The rootkit supposedly infects USB sticks, reprograms their microcontroller firmware to hide itself, and injects itself into sterile computer once the stick is plugged in. Indeed, simply plugging in an infected USB thumb drive with no other action required is supposedly enough to catch bad BIOS. Canadian Rui claims he's been fighting against this terrifying strain for weeks, but nobody else has come across it. The malware can prevent a machine from booting from CD, can stop the system administration software from working, and attempts to burn evidence of the nasty onto optical media is thwarted by the rootkit, which, we're told, can hook into classic BIOS, EFI, and UEFI firmware. Did somebody just say UEFI firmware? Like my Gigabyte UEFI dual BIOS? Oh my gosh. So how did a 16-year-old get to them? You got to read the article. It's on my climateviewer.com/privacy. That's a long story. But it's a very funny story. And it involves bad use of passwords. Let's put it that way. The rootkit's ultimate intentions, other than sending out encrypted IP version 6 traffic, is not at all clear, it seems. As a result, what you will notice is that, I have, since way back when, I have always blocked IP version 6 traffic. If you think I'm kidding, take a look. One sec. So, on my computer, the only thing that's turned on is IP version 4. Internet Protocol version 6 disabled. And there's a reason for that. Because I've known for a very long time that these, BIOS viruses use IP version 6 traffic to try to send out data. So, just saying. And I was working on Mike Morales' machine the other day. I did the same thing for him, and magically his computer came back to life and started working just fine. Just saying. But regardless, so I don't use IP version 6. I completely block it from my PC as a result. But that doesn't stop, the NSA or Russia's GRU or Chinese PLA from being able to get into your... If they want to get in, they're going to get in. Let's just put it that way. The reaction. So, a couple people, but Rob Graham from Errata Security has put together a detailed analysis of each claim of bad BIOS's capability. Quote, everything Dragos describes is plausible. It's not the mainstream of hacking, but neither is it nation-state level hacking. I would disagree with that. Even more skeptical evaluation comes from industrial veteran Paul Ducklin, writing in Sophos Naked Security Block. It's possible, of course, that this is an elaborate hoax intended to as a combined publicity exercise and social engineering experiment that will be wrapped up at PACSEC. If so, expect to be aimed at outing anyone who jumped to detailed conclusions without having details to go on. But as we can see, and you see by the poll, it's purely science fiction. I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards science fiction one out significantly. This is 2013. Now, I just showed you 2009 Rootkit in the BIOS from WikiLeaks. 2013. This can't be happening. Well, that brings us to today, because this is a brand new day. And this is dated September 30th, 2018. So, just happened. Heads up, now in the wild, new super evil rootkit survives even nuke from orbit and hard drive swap. The purpose of this is that most people think that once they get a rootkit, that the rootkit's living in the master boot record of your hard drive. So if you can't get rid of the rootkit, go buy a new hard drive. That's the purpose of infecting the BIOS or the UEFI part of the motherboard, is that even if you take your hard drive out and you put a new one in, you're still infected. They still have control of your computer. This thing is a nightmare that escaped into daylight. The Russian GRU, aka Fancy Bear, probably was riveted reading the WikiLeaks CIA Vault 7 UEFI rootkit docs PDF, link in just a second, and built one of these motherboard killers of their own, apparently weaponizing the existing LoJack commercial code to speed up the job. This rootkit, called LoJax, survives a reformat and OS reinstall, and even a hard drive swap, because it lives in the system's flash RAM. The only way to get rid of this infection means going in, overwriting the machine's flash storage, not to mention, not something for the faint of heart, because if you do this wrong, you will brick your computer. It will never work again. Provided that you can even get hold of the right code. Imagine this monster being propagated with a 0-day worm like WannaCry. It gives you the shivers. So what the heck is UEFI? Remember BIOS? It got replaced with UEFI, which stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. UEFI is a specification for the interface between a computer's firmware or hardware and its operating system. This interface controls booting and operating system and runs pre-boot applications. This rootkit attack compromises the machine's UEFI by rewriting it. The malware can persist inside the computer's flash memory, and that survives the nuke from orbit. This clip never gets old. And even hard drive swaps. And if you guys want to watch that, I'm not going to play it, but I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's a hacker joke, nuke the site from orbit. But anyway, that's what they're referring to there. Last few years, hardware community has introduced measures that do make it very hard for someone to make unauthorized changes at the firmware level. One example is something called Secure Boot. The new motherboard I'm going to be getting will have Secure Boot on it. I'm going to give it a shot, but wait for it. That's not going to work. A mechanism that ensures only secure signed firmware and software can be booted and run on the system. Controls like Secure Boot are why InfoSec Pros are now generally considered UEFI rootkits as something more hypothetical, and that only government-sponsored actors are able to develop and use. However, now this is now that this specter is out of the bottle, you can expect that more UEFI rootkits rearing their ugly heads, possibly having advanced features like signature verification bypass. If you want to take a very deep dive into this, here's a fascinating 1-hour video that explains more and a PDF that describes the opportunity for bad actors. Most antivirus scanners and other security products also don't look for UEFI issues, make it even harder to detect the malicious code is there. And if it is, you're in trouble. It's a devil to get rid of. And then it goes into who discovered this and, a whole bunch more on that. So what were they talking about there? Vault 7, the CIA docs that were put out on WikiLeaks. And if you look through these, you can do a quick search on this for rootkit. And you can see that here CP is an OS X rootkit that provides stealth tool launching capabilities. It hides files, directories, socket connections, and processes. It runs on Macintosh OS X 10.6 and 10.7. And then other operations stolen. One of the persistent mechanisms used by the CIA here is stolen goods, whose components were taken from malware known as Carburp, a suspected Russian organized crime rootkit, confirming that recycling of malware found on the internet by the CIA. The source of Carburp was published online, and that allowed the AED RDB to easily steal components as needed from the malware, while the CIA claims that most of Carburp was not used in stolen goods. They do acknowledge that the persistence method and parts of the installer were taken and modified to fit our needs, providing a further example of reuse of portions of publicly available malware by the CIA, as observed in their analysis of leaked material from the Italian company Hacking Team. So the CIA took a rootkit that was online, repurposed it, and were like, all right, we'll just use parts of this to be able to access people's PCs. Great. So here's that actual CIA or NSA UEFI Unified Extensible Firmware Interface Specification document that they said the Russians were reading through. It's dated April 2015. And this is where they got all their information on how to hack a UEFI motherboard. Tons of fun. CIA hacking tools revealed. Hacking team source dump map introduction. All these links will be, put in an article later on. And they referenced, of course, LoJax. First UEFI rootkit found in the wild, courtesy of the SEDNet group. You saw it right there, guys. UEFI rootkit found in the wild. There's my dead UEFI dual BIOS, which was corrupted. Coincidence? Possibly. I don't think so, especially considering the kind of work I do and what I talk about. The possibility that I have been a target of a UEFI rootkit is extremely high. Russia's SEDNet deploys first firmware level rootkit in the wild. The Advanced Persistent Threat Group's LoJax can install malware capable of surviving both OS operating system reinstallation and hard disk replacement. So like I said, these motherboard hacks, BIOS and UEFI, you can take your hard drive out, you can reinstall your Windows, you are still infected. There aren't any rootkit scanners out there that I know of that can remove these sorts of things. And as far as I know, the only way to get rid of these is to properly flash your BIOS, and that may not even work, or replace the BIOS chip directly on your motherboard. Something I'm looking into doing. Little side note, another NSA hack, Cottonmouth, up your serial bus. And literally, this is showing the USB connector that has the built-in device that allows them to hijack your computer through a USB connection. But why would I get targeted with a UEFI virus? Maybe it has something to do with this little article, ClimateViewer.com/privacy. You can just click on privacy right here and go to the privacy and surveillance fact. Would this let someone turn your Wi-Fi and change your system settings, also grab screenshots of your screen? Yes, it certainly would. So I talk about the New World Order, and I call it the Five Eyes, or AUSCAN-ZUCCUS, which is Australia, Canada, US, UK, and New Zealand. AUSCAN-ZUCCUS. So it's Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, US. But also known as the Five Eyes, but it's actually the 14 Eyes, which is the Stone Ghost Network. All of these countries work together. The Five Eyes, then the 9 Eyes are Denmark, France, Netherlands, Norway, and the 14 Eyes, which include Germany, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Sweden. They all share information together. They all share viruses together and zero-day exploits together. They share all this stuff so that they can hack the world. Problem with that, Russia buys access to Stone Ghost Network for only $3,000 a month. So they actually had a Canadian Defense Department contractor who accessed the Stone Ghost Network, and as he put it, it's a computer system that links the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes are United States, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. All their information is shared on the Stone Ghost computer network. So there you go. All of it's shared together, and then I have my timeline of Five Eyes, AUSCAN-ZUCCUS, and that's where you can see this, all of the references. It's in the references section right here. Just click the little references box, and you can read about H.B. Gary's nemesis, the 16-year-old schoolgirl, official H.B. Gary's federal sock sorter, and persona management software. And what this stuff is how the U.S. government creates online persona management service, 50 user license, 10 personas per user, so that a defense contractor can have 10 Facebook accounts simultaneously on the same computer and go screw with your brain. There you go. So you can read all those references. They're all down here at the bottom, including the WikiLeaks response that I talked about earlier. And this is probably what got me in trouble, is this here surveillance map. And as you can see over on ClimateViewer.org, you can look at the Five Eyes Stone Ghost Surveillance Network, submarine underwater cables, and Department of Homeland Security fusion centers like the Utah Data Center, the Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative supercomputer. This is where Hillary Clinton's emails are stored and everybody's emails on the planet. But this is where the Stone Ghost Network feeds into. It's out in the middle of Utah. Anyway, so putting this map together probably got me in a whole lot of trouble. I was actually interviewed by the NSA on a beach vacation at Myrtle Beach. And, you know, he asked me specifically about my map and why I would do such a thing. But regardless, now I have a dead BIOS in the computer I'm currently using. And, you know, in my last video, I asked everybody to support my work, help me get a new motherboard, because basically this thing has been crashing on me randomly and doing all kinds of crazy shit. And I had a whole lot of people support me so far, and I'd like to take the time to thank them for that. So let me bring this up real quick. I'd like to thank Diana Wilson, Norma, Michelle, and her hubby Philip, Unconditioned Network, let's see, Jennifer, April. I'm not going to give out their names because, you know, maybe these people want privacy. Victoria, D&D Unlimited. Love you, mean it. Christopher Fontenot, I know you don't mind. Love you, brother. He's my brother from another mother. Rand, Joseph, Brant, Diane, Mark, Karen, Todd, Gregory, Lynn, Kelly, not my wife, Catherine, Pete, my homeboy, Nano Man, WDZYNZ, 777. I like that, man. Appreciate that. $7.77, people. Dorothy and I'm not gonna say that name. Jody, kinda, Per Hale, Lindy, Bernard, Britton, Eugenia, Dominic, my homeboy, Weather Mod History, thank you, brother. TP, Leonard, Daly, Oliver, Ned, Julianne, and Deborah again. I really appreciate you guys, supporting me, helping me get a new system. Pretty much got everything I needed. Still got, maybe about $150 worth of cost in getting it all put together at the local computer shop. But I got a new system on the way, so I should be able to get back to business as normal. And hopefully it won't burn up my new video card, because I've gone through 3 video cards in my current motherboard, and it's constantly crashing randomly while I'm doing stuff that's really just unbelievably sad. Like I spend like 30-40 minutes working on something, realize I haven't saved, and then bam, the whole system locks up, and you don't even want to go back and do it at that point. But regardless, oh man, polymer clay ClimateViewer Dragon. I was born in the year of the dragon. I am a dragon. I love dragons. That would be freaking epic. Yes, please send me a polymer clay ClimateViewer Dragon. That would be epic. Little known fact, dragons in Chinese mythology control the weather. And I was born in the year of the dragon. Is it a coincidence that I talk about weather modification? There are no coincidences. And like I said, there are no coincidences. There really aren't. So now you guys know about BIOS hacking. Jim Sherwood, I greatly appreciate you, man. Thank you, brother. I just had to put this out here because I feel like it's more than a coincidence that I've been having these BIOS issues, that I have intimate knowledge about BIOS and UEFI rootkits, and now you do too. So if you're taking your computer to your local computer shop, maybe you should bring this up, like, share this video with your local computer shop. They probably don't even know this stuff exists. Most people don't. 99% of the globe has never even heard of a rootkit, let alone one that can live on your motherboard. So that's the purpose of making this video tonight. I really wanted you guys to understand that this is a real thing, and I'm pretty damn sure that's what happened to me. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to prevent it from happening again. But like I said, if the NSA or the Russian GRU or the Chinese PLA want to get into your computer bad enough, they've got tons of companies like Hacking Team, Secure Team. Wait, that's a UFO channel. Finn Fisher, lots of companies that are DoD contractors like HB Gary, and they are dedicated to breaking in your PC. So there are no secure PCs out there. There is no server that is secure. Your health records being put online. It's not a question of if it will be hacked, it's when it will be hacked. And that is the nature of the beast. It is in the interest of governments and their militaries to ensure that no computer is ever secure. Because if they ever became completely secure, they would not be able to spy on their enemies, let alone their own citizens. So now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And with this information comes great responsibility. So I ask that you guys inform as many people as possible. Please hit the like button. Share this video. If you didn't catch the live stream, leave me a comment. Tell me, maybe you've experienced this as well. Some kind of BIOS corruption. Notice that your computer's just completely screwy slow and you have no clue why. If you've ever seen your computer come on in the middle of the night, I've seen that happen multiple times with mine. Or come back to your computer and realize that programs you had opened are now gone, or just, all kinds of wacky things. These are called rootkits. And the worst ones live in your motherboard. And trying to get rid of them is damn near impossible. So let people know. Coming to a cell phone near you, probably. They're probably already on the cell phones as well. So let everybody know your motherboard is now a target for those who want to spy on you. And thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys will continue to support my work on patreon.com/ClimateViewer, or give a one-time donation on PayPal or GoFundMe. Any of the money I get in the PayPal right now, I'm using towards upgrading my PC. And if I get any leftover money beyond what I need, I hope to get a new hardware firewall for the house, because just having a software firewall is not enough. You need stateful packet inspection and all that stuff. So guys, I appreciate you tuning in tonight. I hope that you'll share this video, and remember to attack ideas, not people.